Welcome to Off Screen. This week we're reading Stuber by Tripper Clancy. An innocent Uber driver's night is turned upside down when a crotchety old cop ropes him into a plan to get revenge on the criminal who killed his ex-partner.
Tripper Clancy.
So Tripper Clancy.
What kind of a name is that?
Oh,
Trip for short?
Yeah, Trip. I've heard of people called Trip before.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Trip is cool. Tripper seems, I don't know. Like, why you tripping?
Because he's a Tripper. Because he's Tripper.
Tripping isn't a good thing to do, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, unless he chose this name, we can't give him too much.
Maybe
shit for
it's
it, right?
like a pen name. I don't know.
Could be.
So tell me about him. I know nothing. I know nothing.
So, one of his previous scripts, Henry II, which was kind of like a high school coming of age type thing, it won a contest called Script Pipeline.
Okay.
And then more recently, he sold this screenplay for mid six figures.
So was this his first sale? Do you know?
No,
because the other one just won the contest.
it won the contest, but I think it also sold.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, this Stuber movie is it has Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daley attached to direct. They previously
Wait, John Francis Daley, wasn't he the guy from Freaks and Geeks? Or am I just making that up? Like the kid actor.
Hold up. Yes.
What? He's directing?
Yeah, he directed. I believe he wrote Horrible Bosses.
What? You're blowing my mind right now. I didn't know any of this.
Yeah, he has a screenplay credit on Horrible Bosses. They're writing the upcoming Superman movie.
Okay.
No, I said Superman. I meant Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
And it looks like Clancy has another screenplay called Hacker Camp set up at Hasbro, something called Stranded at Sony, and something called The Ambassadors at Fox. So he is all over town, just killing, crushing life.
Good for him.
Yeah, so it's a good time to be in the Tripper Clancy business, or to be in the business of being Tripper Clancy.
Yeah, I suppose.
So this is like an action comedy, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, do you want to get the synopsis on?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Okay. A year ago, Detective Vic Manning lost his partner in a showdown with a drug queenpin named Santos. When he finally gets word that Santos is back in town, he's just had LASIK eye surgery, figures. He can't see well enough to drive, so instead Vic calls an Uber. His driver is a timid guy named Stu, whose overbearing girlfriend keeps calling to check in with him. Over the course of the night, Stu finds himself increasingly involved in Vic's investigation, even helping him to shoot at some of the bad guys when Vic can't aim for himself. By the time they catch up with Santos, his girlfriend is pissed. He missed their month-anniversary dinner. For once, Stu stands up for himself, breaking up with her right then and there over the phone. At the same time, Stu and Vic are captured by Santos and her goons, but with his newfound courage, Stu manages to escape and saves the day by calling in a bunch of Uber pickups to surround the gang, distracting them just long enough for the cops to arrive. After a short recovery in hospital, Stu and Vic have become partners, if not officially, at least as friends.
Cool.
Like partners, like in the police force.
Well, they're not partners in the police force.
Right, but that's what I said. They're not.
Yeah. They're
friends.
It's
It's kind of a buddy comedy, actually. We didn't really say that.
Well, also, Vic has a daughter, and at the end, Stu's dating the daughter. So it's more of a father-in-law type of situation going on.
Anyway, so good things?
There were a couple funny moments, I think.
Just a couple funny moments. Wow, okay.
I don't know. Did you think there were a lot of funny moments?
I thought there were a lot of moments that were funny, but not, like, hilarious. But there were some parts that I thought were quite funny.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, well, this is really stupid. It's really, really stupid, I admit. I think I just have
a good way to set it up.
I have a soft spot for this stuff.
Okay.
And I'm starting to see that more and more, that these kind of scripts work for me and not for you.
What? I haven't said anything yet.
Okay, but like their first...
I happen to actually think this was like really impressive, like really good.
What?
I'm dead serious.
I don't know if I believe you.
I'm dead serious. Go on.
All right, well, the first kind of step in this investigation is that they question a stripper whose name is Shaniqua Titties. Although when they get to the strip club, the guy working the bar says, "No, it's Titier. It's French." You're laughing. I can see.
I'm laughing because it's so stupid.
I know it is.
It's so. Oh my god, it's so bad.
Yeah. I think most of the really good parts were from dialogue. The action was okay on its own, but none of the actual like plot or action stuff really made me laugh. The situations were kind of ridiculous, yes, but
yeah,
like there were too many, I think, moments where I'm already getting into the bad things. I shouldn't do this, but there are a lot of moments where Stu kind of accidentally succeeds. You know, he'll like miss with his gun, but it like ricochets and hits the guy in the leg.
mm-hmm.
That was ridiculous. There's another part where like, what is it?
Stu accidentally.
I don't remember how that happened now. I have a note that he
the bad guy had a switchblade in his pocket, and Stu like happened to just like collide with him in the right way, so the switchblade opened and stabbed him.
That was it. Yeah. So he gets really lucky, and that kind of gets played out really early on for me.
Definitely. There's just not a lot of like specificity to it. It's kind of just feels really stock to me. Really? Just like kind of cliche jokes, cliche characters.
I think Stu was also a little too stupid sometimes.
Well, he was just
too awkward.
Not believable in any of these situations.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing, like, he's clearly a fish out of water character, but like when they're in the strip club and then he walks in and he sees another guy having sex with another stripper, and he asks Stu, "That place was insane. You're a cop. Let me ask you something. Is it legal for one man to witness another man make love? I'm asking for a friend, of course."
Right.
It's just like, it's a lot of that sort of shit, and it's really dumb. Like, what human being in any situation would ask that? Yeah.
It's a little bit cartoony, maybe, at how naive and awkward he is sometimes. There were other nice moments, though. I mean, like, I was going to say there's this great line, I thought, on this is page 96. This is when he's, like, trying to help rescue Vic from these, like, gang people who have kidnapped them. And he's thinking, like, what would Vic do? And then he has sort of a moment where he realizes, no, I'm not Vic, I'm Stu. What would Stu do? And that works for him, and he ends up saving the day his own way. He's not doing it Vic's way. Right. And that was nice, because he realizes it's not just like he has to learn to be more like macho and grizzled like Vic. It's like he has his own set of skills. Really, yeah. So that was nice.
Which is something, which I think that works because throughout the screenplay, he is doing things for other people, or is letting other people, namely his girlfriend Becca, make decisions for him, or Vic, like force him into all these situations.
Yeah.
But it's worth noting that what his plan is, when Stu does Stu, his plan is to activate 20 burner phones and call and request Ubers with all 20. So just a whole fleet of Ubers show up.
Which does not seem very effective. It's kind of ridiculous the way it actually plays out.
For a screenplay with Uber in the title, it doesn't really seem to understand how Uber works so much.
Well, wait, what about that is inaccurate?
Does this dude have 20 credit cards to request 20 Ubers with?
I suppose. Did he log into the same account? You also can't
turn your... So he created 20 accounts.
I don't know. I haven't used Uber that much.
You also can't make your Uber driver turn him into a personal chauffeur. You're supposed to go from one place to another, and that's the end of the excursion.
Benefit of the doubt here, if they make this, they'll probably change it to some fake other Uber-esque service.
Sure, and
where these things might work.
That it was Uber.
But I'm just saying, if they make up some fake one, it could work like that. You don't know.
Sure.
But
it still isn't.
But regardless, that is no way to help get you out of this situation with these gang members. Like, it was pretty absurd that was enough to distract them, and then the cops show up. The cops show up really fast, by the way.
They do.
Yeah. And just
instantaneously.
It felt like a too much of a forced thing of, how can we use Uber, as a plot device?
Well, they should have dropped Uber from the title and just made it about. There wouldn't be such an expectation that Uber would factor in such a great role if it weren't in the title, I guess is my point.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
Like, we don't see at the end of Collateral, we don't see, like, a fleet of taxis appear.
It is going to be...
Not that they're different.
It is going to
the
be
same tone,
pretty difficult to un-Uberfy this script, because there are a lot of things that are not going to be able to... You can't just make them into some generic Uber-esque company. You couldn't just create a fictional version for some of these things.
I mean, the problem is there's a lot of jokes made that rely on the association with
the
Uber.
Actual word, yeah.
But those jokes aren't good, so they could easily be lost. One thing I did like, I thought his breakup conversation with Becca was pretty well written.
Yeah.
Because it got at what he was missing out on by being with her, I guess. And it showed directly how the experience that he just had is informing his decision to leave her.
Wait, let's see if I can find that. Yeah, okay, it says, because there's this whole world out there, and I'll never get to experience it with you clinging onto my leg at every step. That's what you're talking about, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I like that her ringtone is like a bird squawking, and it's just like a really super annoying noise every time she calls.
It is kind of unfair to the character Becca, because we only see her in this one, not the ringtone, just how she's portrayed, because...
But I like that. I like that we never actually see her. All we get is that bird squawking, and then her terrible attitude that she constantly has every time she talks to him.
But I mean, Stu seems to be totally into this for the majority of the screenplay, so his about face is kind of abrupt.
Well, I wouldn't say for most of this screenplay. Like, that was the thing I was going to say, was that his character arc seemed like there was no character development for like the first half of the script, and then suddenly, in a matter of a few scenes, it was like completely overhauled.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, and it came too fast.
Just all of a sudden a switch flips and he's over this relationship.
Yeah.
Because he had been all about texting her every 30 minutes or whatever.
Right, he was like willing to check in with her.
His whole motivation for being an Uber driver was so he could buy her a 17
an engagement ring.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we were missing like a story beat or two in there. Like, nothing developed with her story for the whole first half of the second act, I would say. It's just all focused completely on the investigation stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also just what catalyzes that sudden change is him running into Nicole, Vic's daughter, and then being struck by how attractive she is.
Right.
Which, like...
What?
So he sees that's dumb. So that's like the first attractive person he's seen in the 17 months that he's been dating her.
It's not just that she's attractive. It's like what she
represents. It's her neckline, as they describe. It says her tattoos, her neckline, and her something else superficial.
So it's shallow, yes.
Yeah. For a guy who is like infatuated with the woman that he's been dating for 17 months, it's, again, strains.
Also, though, more importantly, if you ask me, again, structure-wise, that scene where he finally meets Vic's daughter for the first time, that doesn't come until more than halfway through the script. That should be the midpoint right there. That's the problem. Okay. That should be the midpoint complication, is that, he's trying to do this. He's working this Uber job, trying to get money to buy his girlfriend an engagement ring. And the midpoint, the complication, is that he meets this other girl, and now it calls into question his whole point for doing this in the first place. Is like, maybe I actually don't want to be with Becca. There are other girls out there that I like more.
Sure.
That's like a midpoint.
Or there might be other ones. Yeah.
That's like what a midpoint is supposed to do, but that didn't come until much later.
Well, then there should be some deliberation that follows, right? Some real, like, soul searching. Where he considers this.
Yeah, probably. We didn't even get into the thing about how the police chief, Vic's boss, is actually in on the whole thing.
Right.
That never really came to fruition much either. I mean, he just he comes to supposedly help Vic take down Santos, and we know at this point, the audience knows, he's really about to betray Vic. Mm-hmm. But then Stu just plows into him with the car. Yeah. Saves the day again. and he's dead,
Yeah.
presumably.
Yeah.
But that's it. Like, that poor captain guy. I mean, he's a bad guy, but that's like that's no way to resolve that story. That's kind of cheap, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Likewise, they don't resolve the thing with Becca much either. They have the fight over the phone. He breaks up with her, but we never see or hear from her again after that, which really surprised me. Like, at least you gotta have that last little, joke thing at the end where, like, he sees her somewhere in public and, I don't know, he embarrasses her, or, like, I don't know. There's gotta be some last little joke to be had there, right? At her expense.
Well, I think it's enough at her expense. I mean...
Okay, but something, like,
sure.
I didn't expect them breaking up to be the last thing we heard from her.
Right. Maybe there's a joke where she and her, like, new boyfriend are, like, happily...
I guess I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that kind of joke work where it's like, oh, she's just on to the next guy.
No, or like it actually worked out for them.
Oh,
like,
that's nice.
It wasn't like Stu ultimately didn't like being checked in on every 30 minutes. I mean, a lot of people.
But the point was that no one should be okay with that, and that's no way to have a relationship. So I wouldn't want that to work out.
The idea is that Stu was all about that for the longest time until he had this one crazy night with.
Right, but you're saying at the end you should see her with some new guy that's totally into that?
Yeah, maybe. It's not because Stu was into it too.
Yeah, but to me that promotes the idea that, like, that is the basis for a functioning relationship, which it's not.
Well, then maybe it's just like a sad thing. I don't know.
Okay. So it sounds like we both kind of have a lot of negative things to say about this, but I think when we both have a script that we don't think is maybe that great, but clearly just recently sold for a good chunk of change, maybe we should try and figure out why. Like, what's the reasoning behind that? Is there a good reason? Or is it just, stupid industry trends or whatever? It's hot right now, that topic, or, something about it that, apart from that, just quality of the writing.
Yeah, sure.
What do you think? Because I think... To me, it's primarily just that buddy dynamic thing.
Yeah, I think that's what sells, and it's something that doesn't.
I think it's
cost a lot to make, maybe, or maybe it does. Yeah. I don't know, but you see, like, a long history, like I don't know, Bad Boys is like this sort of thing.
I think that's a huge thing that often sells scripts. Is it's sad to say, but plot, especially with comedies, plot is not what sells a script. It's the dialogue, it's the characters, it's the character dynamic, like the buddy relationship.
Or it's like fitting into something that you could see as a movie.
Yeah.
Fitting into some box that has been successful in the past.
Definitely. Well, yeah, true. And then also I thought you were going to say this is a very timely sort of premise, like with the Uber thing. It's like a trendy sort of idea.
If this were, I don't know, if it's written about taxis instead of Ubers, maybe it wouldn't be as successful. Or maybe it would because it had that same familiar buddy dynamic.
Maybe, but yeah, that reminds me that it's a lot like Collateral. Have you seen Collateral?
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, it's not anything at all like Collateral.
But it's the premise is very similar.
Yeah, it is. I guess the premise is very similar, and then nothing else is similar.
Okay, fine.
But no, go on. I want to hear you talk about Collateral because I really like that movie.
Oh no, that's pretty much all I was going to say. It's about a cab driver who gets held hostage by a hitman to go kill a bunch of people.
Yeah. And both set in LA.
Yeah.
And this screenplay, something I liked about it was I like that it pointed out a lot of different parts of LA, like specifically. Like there's scenes in Koreatown, there's scenes down by the harbor. Yeah. There's mention of Melrose. A lot of different neighborhoods are brought into it.
I feel like that's sort of a cheap thing too, though.
It doesn't really, but they don't really do anything.
It makes you feel cool if you know. And of course all the people that are reading this in the industry are going to know because they live in LA. Yeah.
Well, it's better than if you actually imbue the screenplay with like characteristics of those neighborhoods as opposed to just name dropping them. Like here they're just interchangeable. There was
some kind of description about some of the seedier looking places. I guess it wasn't anything that was specific enough. Yeah, it wasn't specific enough that it could only be there though.
Yeah, I don't know. I just view it kind of overall as posturing rather than getting at something substantial.
That's fair. I'm not surprised when you were saying that this guy has written quite a few scripts that have sold and
Hmm.
has a lot of stuff that it sounds like is sort of in development right now.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder, I don't know, just follow me for a second, bear with me. But it seems like when we read scripts by guys like this who are really like hot right now and selling a lot of stuff, it seems like the writing is a little lazier almost because they, I think, can bank on the momentum of their
Yeah.
career, and all you really need is a premise and a funny sort of character dynamic, and that's enough.
Hmm.
And it's kind of a shame, and I think it speaks more to the industry than to the writer that it allows you to get away with that.
Sure.
And like, I think it's sort of like how I feel about music. I feel like bands, their first album, a lot of times is really great because they've had all the time they want up until then to perfect those songs and pick from, they probably had written a bunch of songs and they only picked the best ones to put out in their first album. But then as soon as that album hits and they're a known entity, they have to start, feeding the machine and like keep making stuff to stay relevant, and it comes faster and
They
the
have a
quality
deadline
the
all
quality
of a
goes
sudden.
down. Yeah, their
Yeah.
expectations, and then yeah, the quality goes down. I feel like it's a similar thing here
I
where
definitely see that in terms of like from the artist's point of view.
yeah.
But the where like they diverge is that sophomore album is usually called like the sophomore slump album, and it's
Is that a
usually
thing?
yeah, and it usually isn't well
Uh-huh.
received. They aren't rewarded.
But you don't think that's true with screenwriting?
Well, this dude just sold this screenplay and made like 600 grand.
Okay, well
So
maybe that's his end game, but like maybe the movie's not going to turn out well. And that'll be the slump.
yeah. I'm just saying
But
there's less reward for the musician than there is for the screenwriter.
I suppose, yeah. But also, I think that might have something to do with why a lot of the blacklist scripts that we've been reading, which are by relatively unknown people, they sometimes feel much more polished. At least to me, it seems
Then
that that's been the case a lot of times.
do you think that's true? Or than the non-blacklist scripts we've read?
Well, not just that it's blacklist or not blacklist, but I just mean a lot of the blacklist writers,
Mhm.
they're kind of unknowns, and that maybe their first script that actually is getting attention, and so they've probably spent a lot of time on it without feeling hurried by, the pressure to keep producing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he probably has multiple things going on at once now.
Yeah.
So his attention is kind of
Spread thin.
yeah, maybe.
So should we do verdicts?
Yeah.
I keep telling myself every time that I'm going to plan ahead of time what my verdict is, and then
Really?
I always forget, and I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go
Do you
ahead
not?
and pass.
Do you plan ahead?
I mean, I have some general idea, and then
Yeah,
there's been
yeah,
times
yeah.
where you've persuaded me to change it just based on
Okay.
our conversation. But this is not one of them, and I
Okay.
will pass on both.
You've been doing a lot of passing lately, I feel like.
Well, I call it like I see it. I mean, ultimately,
I mean, I shouldn't complain. At least you're being decisive and you're not qualifying it with anything like you usually do. But,
I mean, but at the beginning when we first started this, you were worried that you were passing on too many things,
yeah.
and I was the
yeah.
one that was more positive. But when you're writing coverage, the majority of the stuff you're going to read is going to be a pass,
Yeah, true.
like the vast majority.
Right.
And the recommend is going to be very
1 in
seldom.
100 or something, yeah. I'm gonna go... Oof.
Oh, don't do it.
What? What do you think I'm gonna say?
You're going to say something other than what I said.
I'm trying to decide. I'm gonna pass on one and consider on
Okay,
one, but I don't
okay,
know. I don't know which
okay.
is which because like I don't know what to attribute it to. Like the premise, I guess the premise wasn't really that great. So I guess to me that says that I should consider the writer because really what I liked about this was the dialogue, which is going to be something that is specific to that writer. Like I think a lot of people could come up with this premise. In fact, someone else did. We
And it
said
sold
last
recently,
week
yeah.
there was another Uber script out there. So yeah, I think I'm going to pass on the script. I'll consider the writer at least because I liked some of the dialogue. There were some good jokes in there. Yeah, that's my final decision.
I feel like that's fair, definitely. I feel like there could be a good Uber movie written.
You just don't think this is it?
Yeah, definitely. Not.
A good Uber comedy? Or is there also...
Yeah, it could be a comedy. Sure.
I've heard...
I think it'd be more fun if it weren't a police officer, though.
Yeah.
Just a patron.
When you put a police officer character in a movie, it immediately, I feel like, takes a certain direction where you're using a lot of cliche
It makes it a
things.
police officer thing as opposed to, like, an Uber thing.
Yeah.
Maybe. Because Vic can't...
What?
We also forgot to mention that Vic can't see for, the majority of this movie because he just had LASIK.
Right,
so
I mentioned
Stu
that.
has to be his eyes.
Yeah.
Which just makes
They don't...
it so much more ridiculous.
But they don't really make the most of that either.
No, that could be really... there could be a lot of gags based on that, right?
Yeah.
Not that yeah.
Like, his vision gets better pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where he can function more or less normally. If he was just virtually blind the whole time, that might be a lot more fun.
I feel like... Yeah, maybe it's possible, but I feel like I would also just kind of hate it more.
Because it would just feel gimmicky.
It would just open up... Unless it were really funny, I would think it was really stupid, I guess.
Well, that's how it always goes, isn't it? I mean...
It is. It would have to be really good, and I don't feel like the odds of that being true are so high.
Yeah.
So a couple people have voted on our poll now on Facebook for the script that we're going to read at some point. Either the Blacklist screenplay Shut-In or the unproduced David Lynch one, Ronnie Rocket.
Yeah.
You can vote for it by commenting on the poll, facebook.com/OSPodcast.
Mm-hmm.
You can email us at info@ospodcast.com. You can email us at info@ospodcast.com.
Yes.
Our website is ospodcast.com. Twitter is @ospodcast. We're on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher.
Stitcher, yes.
Pretty much everywhere.
Also, I forgot to tell you this, but I feel like we're just shouting into the void right now because I've not been able to check our downloads or stats or anything this last week because Bluehost, I'm putting them on blast.
Shit.
This is on the record. Bluehost, all my stats are lost for some reason.
All of them? Even the old ones?
I can't, well, no, I have those, but for the last week, I haven't had any stats on anything. So even more than usual, I feel like I'm just...
This is disappointing.
Shouting into the void, and I feel that way normally a little bit, but especially so this week.
But honestly, we've had some good positive momentum going for the last month or so, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's really cool, and we're really appreciative of the people that listen.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay, next week we're going to read a script called Man Alive by Joseph Greenberg. A man's world is thrown into disarray when an alien virus takes over the planet and he becomes the only being the virus cannot infiltrate.